to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the K9 episode Curse of Anubis, written by Jim Noble and is directed by Carl Swiggy. This story deals with many Egyptian-inspired mythology, with our main monsters of the story, the Anubians, being inspired by Egyptian visual characters from Egyptian mythology, mainly Set or Anubis, the main Anubis, the god of death in Egyptian mythology. Now, this is kind of interesting because if you remember way back in the Fourth Doctor Adventures, The Pyramid of Mars, we've already had a character inspired by Egyptian mythology with Sutek, the Destroyer, and a siren who is just enthralled with the concept of death itself. And what I find really fascinating is that these characters, the Anubians, despite them canonically being a different race and seemingly having very little to do with Sutek and the Sirens, apart with the exception of their physical attributes and their Egyptian-inspired settings, the Anubians here do have these like faces, these like masks which do resemble the Obsidians. I can't speak today. Sirens. There you go. Sirens is species of their face, which we saw at the end of that story, The Pyramid of Mars. So I think this story has a connection to Doctor Who. However, due to copyright, they probably weren't able to make a full-on sequel to The Pyramid of Mars, which is a crying shame. This story also, I feel, has a much higher budget than your average episode of K9. There's a lot of new set pieces and a lot of costumes and production values, which makes it very strange compared to other episodes in the K9 canon. You've got these costumes, these aliens, which is common for K9. But you've also got this Egyptian-inspired palace-like environment, which we see earlier on, and we also get some really grandiose CGI work, which, let's be honest, looks completely outdated and didn't stand a chance in hell in aging very well due to the budget of this series, even when it was airing, being extraordinarily low. But does this story have anything to offer? K9 so far, despite being mostly a rocky and pretty forgettable and dull show, has had its episodes of fun, enjoyable and heart-wrenching stories, with stories such as the one where it's basically Mean Girls, the Hall of House of Usher. Fear itself was pretty okay, and you do have your handful of good episodes. So where does this story lie? Is it a bad episode? Is it a good episode? Well, let's tackle in and find out. The start of the episode tries to be this big, grandiose adventure. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the episode Remembrance of the Daleks, the 7th Doctor adventure, where we have a shot of the Earth and an alien ship about to arrive, very similar in sense to a Star Wars opening. And this ship takes a Egyptian pyramid style. So this is establishing the fact that aliens might have something to do with Egyptian culture and Egyptian mythology, which has been criticized a lot by many people who in sci-fi fandom, especially with shows like Stargate doing very similar things with the meme. I'm not saying it's aliens, but aliens did it. That hilarious meme is basically the summer up of the story. And we cut to Drake and Georgina's mother and a debate on whether they should shoot this craft out of the sky, with Earth basically being boarded off, and they basically talking about how no aliens are allowed. Any aliens that even comes close to Earth is trespassing. But Georgina's mother is just like, we need to contact them if they are aliens and let them know, or maybe they could be just a simple asteroid. Whilst this happens, the ship goes invisible and finds itself on the top of Griffith's house, with the department hiding the fact that the department basically, they have no idea what happened to the craft, and believing it wasn't actually an asteroid that burned up in Earth's atmosphere. So our characters, there's this moment then where our characters are looking up in the sky, and we basically set up the ideas of this story in which K9 and Starkey and Georgina, they're looking up in the sky and they're quizzing basically K9 on all of these star systems. Really nice little shot, a little moment. It feels very unique, very strange, and it's got this almost childlike wonder about it when the characters looking up in the sky and remembering the places that K9 have been. But K9 is struggling with his memories. He's gaining a bit of his memories back, but he's not all there yet. And this is where they get introduced to the Anubians, who come down to them, seemingly offering a peace agreement. However, they seem to be attacked by those RoboCop characters that work for the department, and they quickly make easy work of them. And then they notice K9, who they recognize as a mythical figure in their mythology. And I really like this idea of, we have in mythologies about these aliens, the obsidians, obsidians. I can't remember their names now. That's really bad. And then they have mythology about K9. So it gives this really unique perspective. And they basically treat K9 like a god and try to help him at his best to try and restore his memories. They have this picture book which basically explains their history. And we actually see the original K9 design appearing on their home planet, freeing them from slavery. And Darius seems to almost joke about it, being very silly about it. But the rest of the characters try and take it very seriously, as they want to help K9 restore his memories. And so, but they also start learning about the department, the almost dictatorship, and they basically try and promise that they will free and help wherever they can with the department, battling the department. However, our main characters are actually kind of on the defense. Satan is like, oh no, it's not all bad. Sure, they're evil and they're corrupt, but it's not all bad. Georgina's mother works for them, and she's good. But K9 is kind of conflicted, as he now has these people working for him who could easily take down a department. Why shouldn't he? And throughout the story then, it basically becomes a power of control for K9, as K9 is basically getting helped by the Obsidians, and they seem to be starting to try and take control. They mind control Griffiths into becoming a slave for K9, and all our characters are like, this is a bit strange, this is a bit weird, we need to talk to K9. But K9 seems very distant. He seems to not hear them when they call him, only getting their attention by using their dog whistles, only for the Anubians, that's the one, the Anubians to take away the dog whistle, as they claim they are expert and they really want to keep freedom. They don't like enslaving, which we learn later on is a red herring, because these are actually the bad guys. No wonder. Big twist right there. And so Stark and Georgina are basically on their own, as the professor's been hypnotized. K9 has been is basically distracted by all of these obsidians, and Darius is being banished from Griffith's house, and he runs off. And so Georgina and Starkey, they go and find the book, because there's something in the book that they're not telling them. So whilst they're sleeping, they take the book. And they learn that K9 did actually save them in the past, did actually free them from slavery. However, after they made this vow that they will never be slaves again, and so they basically oppress their original oppressors, and then going around the galaxy and pressing anybody that they possibly can. And I've forgotten their names again, that's really bad. Sorry, 1 second. Anubisans, the Anubians, they've discovered this and they then hypnotise Georgina and Starkey. So now it's Darius's story. He's the only one free at this point, and it's his journey, his adventure. So you would think this story would try and do its best to give us a deep and emotional character for Darius, and tries to push his character further, or at least give him something really interesting and fun to do, right? He gets in a small little fight. He comes back. He tries to beg to our characters to snap out of it, and the characters still push him away with the Obsidians, the Anubians, whatever they're called. Basically, it's right, he is now a danger to our plans. Let's hypnotise him as well. And there's a small little scene then when they stop. Darius uses his car to stop one of them, which then reveals that his car can talk as well, which is really strange. I don't think it's ever established before that his car had an AI. But there you go. And so basically, he learns with his car, right, it's up to us now. We are the only ones now who know about this, and we can save the day. We have then a scene of Georgina's mother basically knocking on the door of the house, wondering where Georgina is, only to be greeted by this massive Egyptian set piece, which, this is what I'm on about. This story seems like it has a bigger budget than most episodes. In fact, Carl Swiggy's directing here actually is luckily a great standout in this adventure. There's a lot of great camera angles. There's a great bit where Darius drives off, and even though I think we really needed at least a shot of Darius in the car going off, you kind of just hear it in the background as the camera zooms up on Starkey's face as he basically realises that people are leaving and changing left, right and centre. So, and there's some really great shots scattered around throughout the episode. But it also helps that there's a lot of great scenery here with the Egyptian-inspired cathedral, that Professor Griffiths basically redesigns his house to please the Anubians and K9, who is basically becoming this false ruler, if you will. And it just looks really stunning. For a cheap production like this, I do generally appreciate it very much. Georgina's mother comes in and is really confused and baffled by the whole thing, and she calls out for the department. It's right, this is something wrong. Right, we need backup, we need to isolate this area. However, none of the communications get through. As apparently there was a bunch of ships now heading into the atmosphere and is ready to conquer Earth and hypnotise everybody as much as possible. However, this leaves the ship kind of defenseless. And what happens then? We then learn that Darius has now somehow taken the technology from the knocked out Anubian that his car knocked out earlier on in the episode, taken its teleportation device, got onto the ship, deactivated their teleportation system, and basically threatens to destroy them unless they do what they want. And basically when he learns that Georgina's still in the house, they're like, I call your bluff. You're not gonna be prepared to kill anybody. And he goes, Darius is like, that's not a threat. That was stolen. As K9 gets rebooted as he realizes what's going wrong and knocks out the Anubians, essentially freeing the day with the Darius now owning a ship that's now invisible over 2050s London. 250s London. Which is kind of strange because the story seems to be setting up that Darius is going to be this cool, rebellious character, and it's going to be his story, his time to shine. And as soon as he's like, right, come on, we're going on the adventure, we're going to save our friends and save the day. The next time we see him, he's basically, his plan is already in fruition, and he's already making the bargain to save the day. It seems very strange and very oddly structured in that sense. And that's really all I can say about the story. And that's Curse of Anubis. Overall, it's a really fun story. It looks great. The story for K9 surprisingly looked really great, and I highly recommend it if you're somebody who just likes pretty things on the screen. But in terms of a narrative flow, the story, like most episodes in the K9 era, really is what lets it down, with very little character to work off with in this story, and not really much anything of interest in to really talk about or say about the characters and the plot of it all. Although it's incredibly fun, incredibly nice to look at, and that's really much you can say about it. So anyway, that is K9's Curse of Anubis. So join me next time when the Doctor reunites with some old enemies or friends, depending on your point of view, as the Doctor takes Amy and Rory into their future, into a small little village where something has come in from underground. As something is awakening, something is coming for the village. So join me next time for The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. We get reintroduced to the Silurians in the revived era of Doctor Who. And I'll see you next time for the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!